Well, it's just that I thought that it couldn't get any worse. We're taking a look at the remake of, yes, The Wasp Woman. Released in 1995 as a television film, yes, it was released on television as a film. It was a attempt to making something interesting with the Wasp Woman. And let's be honest, I actually sort of enjoyed it. Now, don't get me wrong, it's still a bad film, but it's got a way higher budget, it's got a way higher standard, it's got a better story than the first one, and a very different Wasp Woman thing. I mean, that thing definitely looks like a bug. The effects are still awful, but they still have a very nice costume to lay into it. And I'll be honest, at least the actual person who turns into the monster definitely does not want to suffer anymore, at least. You know? But the first one, it was hard to tell when our villain actually was a villain or not. But now this one feels a lot more grounded and worked out way better. And it's still not a good film. It's still very cheesy. It's very bad. I mean, even the attempts of the attacks, I mean, some of them are just like, I don't know, the attacks and the kills are just very, very awkward in my eyes. But it ramped up and took better risks. Well, it took better options than the first one did. The first one was an hour and 12 minutes. This one actually upped its time a little higher, adding new scenes and an ending that is worth watching than the original. That is how I am literally raising the bar with this film. The Wasp Woman is still a strange film that I still do not understand on why this film had to be made. It's a woman turning into a wasp. And it's still got the same science stuff. The fact that this production's Janice Starling pretty much is just getting a little bit wrinkles in her face, you know, and it just turns her and it just basically messes her mind up. She wants to keep her company strong. She wants to be the number one. So she has a doctor create a formula to make her feel like a beauty pageant winner again. That's how it feels. That's what this movie is. It's not a good movie. I mean, it's a simple concept, but at least the ending makes it worthwhile knowing she's not completely a monster, at least. It's just, I mean, let's just face it, she has the same addiction as Herbert West with syringes. That's how I think of it every time. Because I literally get anxieties on the syringes, and I do getting anxieties on the kills and that costume. I mean, that costume still looks stupid, but it doesn't look as stupid as the original 50s variant. So, yeah, this is still a bad film, but it's tolerable. It's tolerable, to say the least. So, yeah, if I was to take either the original or the remake, I'd pick the remake. However, whoever said in one of those studios, whoever walked in those doors of that studio and said, oh yes, this needs to be remade, you were kind of crazy back in 1995. I mean, sure, it was the 90s, a lot of things were happening, and most horror movies actually are pretty interesting from the 90s. I've looked at many like Jeepers Creepers, and I think I've looked a little bit of Cemetery Man, so yeah, I could see why the 90s is still pretty fun to watch. But at the same time, why bother? Why bother remaking a film of probably one of the most infamously bad horror movies in existence? So, this is still a bad remake, but I could still stomach it more than I can stomach the original. It doesn't take as long, it's way more interesting, it's got a way better pace, but it's still a silly, silly film that I do not ever want to recommend to anyone. But if you want to watch a woman turn into a wasp, this remake is 10 times better than the 50s variant. The 50s variant is good to laugh at, but it still is not worth seeing. Neither is this one, but I can still choose it. However, both of them are absolutely terrible, so in my eyes, pick your poison.